You are now listening to Femme Regard Podcast with Tessa Markle
and Carolina Alvarez.
Femme. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Femme Regard Podcast. Today, our guest is our friend Matteo Bertoli, who is
No, you got to say it, Matteo Bertoli.
Yes, get it right. I'm sorry.
Come on, Tessa.
But he's a freelance DP and owns Buttery Productions. And to get started, of course, me and Carolina have our tea. Today is Celestial Seasonings Lemon Zinger.
Lemon Zinger.
You know, combat the colds, the allergies.
Cold. But also because I know Matteo is a dear friend of mine and a fellow beer drinker, I brought him the Modern Times Coffee Roasted edition.
Yes.
So here's a little coffee. You can have that now or later.
Wow.
And we are you a tea drinker? I wasn't
sure. I can
sure.
drink tea, yeah.
Are you a tea
It's up to
person?
you, beer or tea this morning.
No, I'll do tea maybe.
Okay.
Too early for the beer.
It's never too early for beer.
It's never too early.
So let's get started. I guess, you know, just to kind of introduce you to the listeners, like what really got you started in filmmaking?
It was kind of weird actually, because I basically found out about this university in Italy where I was a DJ at the time. So it was like there was radio and cinema, and basically you had 1 year where everybody was doing the same thing, and then you have to pick up cinema, TV, theater, or radio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I went there because I wanted to work radio, so like DJing or whatever. And first year I started editing. I'm like, oh wow, that's nice. So at the end of the first year, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna pick cinema because I think it's better. And from editing, I started editing pretty much like local news from a TV station in my hometown in Italy.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and from there, you want more footage to edit. So I'm like, okay, I need to shoot it myself. So I just bought my first DSLR camera and start shooting. And basically from there, I just graduated and started working freelance director, filmmaker in Italy. And then I moved kind of all over the world. But now I'm finally stable here in LA. We're pretty happy.
You like it here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I mean, you have everything. I was talking to my wife yesterday. It's like the ocean, the desert, the mountains, the city.
I know.
Like, you can do so much stuff. So, and for filmmaking, like where do you want to go?
Right.
Yeah.
It's the perfect spot to be.
No, we totally can agree with that. And you have so many resources out here too, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But as like from a filmmaker perspective, like what is there a story that is drawing you to create films? Like do you just love the whole edit, like from production to editing process?
Yeah.
Is that what keeps you going? Because it's like interesting, you started from DJ to then like you're doing films.
Yeah. I know, yeah, it's weird. I always thought it was
fun.
like kind of interesting to manipulate images.
Yeah.
So that's what got me into the editing thing. And then from there, yeah. I mean, I started actually directing a lot. Because of course. And then if you're directing and you can't afford...
Yeah, I agree with you.
Why not?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing it all too.
Exactly.
Like...
You have to do, especially in Italy where there's no budget, like ever. Even like some of the top level is like the budget is really like smaller comparing to US. So you always have to learn everything yourself. So I just bought a camera, started shooting and directing. And even now, sometimes I direct because like, I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, we can't afford a director. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and they
I love when there's a director because so I can just take care about the look of the image and you can just think about talking to talent and actor. So, but yeah, it was mainly manipulating image. It was always like fascinating, and I always felt like, oh, sounds so complicated.
Yeah,
and it kind of is. I mean, at the beginning, and then from there, I was just like, oh,
it is
cool.
until you know what you're doing, right?
I mean,
it still is.
Yeah, it's still. Well, if you think about it, like with photos, I mean, now you can take an amazing portrait mode photo on your iPhone.
I know.
Well, with video, same thing. You can still creating amazing video, but with photos, the photo is pretty much ready to go. Video, you still need to edit a video because if you just shoot one clip, it doesn't make sense by itself.
Right.
So that's where I think like I was like,
No, I'm like amazed at how much like editing pretty much makes the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Like I was like, wow.
It is.
Getting into it now, I'm like, it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
It is everything, and it's still the thing that I think makes video a little bit more. Well, yeah, there's apps now editing your videos by themselves or something, but
Right.
I still think it's something that oh, it's not that you just shoot a video.
Mm-hmm.
You have to editing. Why with the photo is more like, oh, you take a photo and it's actually
Yeah.
there. So
Right.
it's still something that editing is not that easy. It's not easy to learn the software and everything. So I think it's still a
Gotcha.
little bit more kind of hard to get there. But I mean, everybody edits now and plenty
Yeah.
of free software. So
But it's helpful too, I think, if you have like any idea what you're doing with editing and how it all works, like when you're actually shooting it to have in mind, like, oh, okay, this is something we can fix in post and not just the cure all the people say, oh, we'll fix it in post. You know what I mean? Like you
Oh.
actually
Right.
know what to do with it.
oh, for sure, for sure. Especially as a DP, because now you can shoot log with your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you can do color grading on your phone at kind of okay level. But yeah, like any single camera, like Blackmagic, Sony, everybody, you can shoot log, and there's so much stuff you can shoot. You can do it in post production. Where I'm a big fan of getting the image straight out of the camera.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just to, I mean,
I agree.
I'm not a big fan of shooting raw. I'm more like I want to shoot what I see, and so at the end it's good.
I think, yeah, Tessa, you were saying that too. You like to, like that one, you're the last shoot that you were doing, and it was like so raw that you just like everything looked really flat. You're like, how can I tell if my face looked like
Right.
you couldn't tell like what you were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, yeah. So I do find that it just does not make it harder though to color grade later.
I think that there's one point. If I color grading, that's fine. If I'm not doing it, that means the guy who's in charge of grading, he can screw up the entire thing
Yeah.
easily. Especially agencies, sometimes you shoot something. That's why, I mean, everybody's trying to get the look straight out of the camera
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know who's gonna grade it, and because you shoot
Oh,
raw, they can literally
interesting.
give that footage whatever look they want.
Yeah.
So if I'm grading it, that's fine. But
So that there are two ways of going about it that is like acceptable.
yeah,
Then like but it's totally fine to shoot it
yeah,
the way you
Yeah.
want it to look and then also do it raw and have
yeah. I
someone
mean, I'm always
color
shooting
grade it.
log or raw, so I have more freedom
Okay.
in post. What I mean is like
Can you explain what log is? I'm not too familiar
log is
with
when
it.
it's basically like a color space, so it gives you the best dynamic range, the best kind of color in an image. So you shoot kind of flat,
Mm-hmm.
super
Okay.
flat, no saturation, no contrast, so you get the most like dynamic range,
Okay.
and then you grade it in post, so you have freedom to move the shadows and the highlights and the meat and whatever you want. So it's kind of like it gives
So
you more freedom.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what's different than that? Is that like raw?
Yeah, well, kind of.
'Cause that sounds
Raw
kind of
raw
like a-
means kind of like compressed or uncompressed. Raw means you're basically shooting raw. No, I mean you can change like white balance and color temperature, tint, ISO in post. So you're basically recording metadata out of the
Okay.
camera, and then you're changing those metadata in post. So basically, let's say you shoot like at ISO 800, which it kind of still makes it different. The ISO you shoot on is not that, oh, I can change it in post, but well, when you go to the DaVinci like color grading software, you can
Right.
pick up your ISO. So you can shoot 800, but then you're like, oh, want to go 400, you can go down.
Okay.
You're not locked into that. While log, you can shoot H.264 log, like Sony A7S. You can shoot ProRes log. So log is just a color space thing.
Okay.
While raw
Okay.
is more like metadata thing. So you're basically shooting uncompressed and like yeah, it's with raw you can literally doing whatever you want. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're shooting 3200 white balance and you're like, oh crap, I want it to go 6000, you can still change it that in if you shoot log ProRes, but it's gonna be kind of weird and it's kind of too much to push the image. While with raw, it's literally just metadata. So you can just, oh, I'm shooting 3000, cool, switch to 6000, and that's 6000. It's like basically allows you to control the image way more, gives you way more
Oh, okay.
space. So yeah, basically it doesn't bake those data into the image, but it's basic. That's why it's raw. It's like uncompressed. And
Got
then you
it.
can bake the meat later.
Later on,
Yeah.
you can make it
Yeah,
manipulative.
just to give you an easier kind of
Yeah.
try to, because it's super
Listeners.
technical. Obviously.
That's the thing. I mean, even this is like over my head because I just don't know camera stuff that much. So,
I know, yeah.
hearing this, I'm like, makes sense.
It's
Sure.
like in a photo, right? When you take a raw photo,
Uh-huh.
you basically put it in Photoshop and you can do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when you shoot a JPEG,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you're locked in.
Mhm.
You can change ISO.
right, and
you
then
can
it
change
gets like fuzzy and weird.
yeah, if you
of
try to
that.
push it too
Right.
much.
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
might-
that makes sense.
yeah. So that's pretty much the difference. But yeah, it's crazy what you can do
Okay.
now.
No, I know,
Yeah.
and that's it's. I've been having fun on my iPhone XS. Tessa just joined the fam
Yes, I did.
yesterday, so
Upgrade.
Nice.
So but yeah, lots of fun there. But we're just wondering, from a DP point of view, what are like what do you think makes a good camera crew for our independent filmmakers out there trying to get like the key crew?
Mhm.
Like what do you think really makes a good one?
Yeah, because you were saying like you love working with a director, but you can't always afford to work with one. Like, what's kind of your ideal crew, and what do you think is like the necessary?
And
crew, at least?
understandably, it's going to vary per
Yeah.
shoot,
Right.
always,
Yeah,
right?
it depends,
So-
but ideally, I don't really like big crews.
Mhm.
I kind of more like, oh, let's just stay like the feature film we just shot in December. There was like pretty much 3 people
Yeah.
camera
Mhm.
crew. So director, DP, first AC for sure.
Okay.
A gaffer
Mm-hmm.
and a grip that can help you out with lights.
Mm-hmm.
And these, of course, for like something small.
Yeah.
And then it goes
Yeah.
up to, I don't know how many
Yeah.
key grip or gaffer
yeah.
or PA or blah blah blah. But
Mm-hmm.
I think PA is something that a lot of people don't really consider as fundamental, but I do,
Yeah.
because especially when you're shooting your own stuff or like spec cat or feature films, and you have to deal with like pay the parking for the crew. Right?
Mhm.
I can't just leave the set and pay.
Yeah.
right.
It's nice to have a PA that can do that, or I need to go get lunch. So you don't want to send your first AC to get lunch. It's
Right.
like, this is for very small budget stuff, but so PA, but for camera,
Well,
yeah.
I think our filmmakers out there who are listening and are like that's how where they're
Yeah.
at right now. And it's like, yeah, if you can grab that homie from back home
Oh,
who's
yeah.
reliable
No,
and
for
will
sure.
take and be there for
No,
you.
it makes
like,
a huge difference.
yeah,
Mhm.
have them on because
Yeah.
you don't want to have to think about that.
No, like
Yeah.
coffee or what I'm gonna do for lunch or whatever. No, you need a guy that can do all that stuff for
Right.
you.
Mhm.
So, but as a DP for sure, first DC, someone that can pull the
Cool.
focus, help you out with the camera, changing lenses, and then gaffer and grip, moving the lights for you.
Right.
Mhm.
Super important.
But
And-
that's pretty much it.
And then something you kind of touched on earlier that I'm going to bring back is you really like working with the director. And what is the best way? Because I've started directing my own scenes. Like, what is like your favorite way for a director to communicate with a DP such as you? Like, what kind of relationship does that look like?
I think it's good when they have a vision already.
Mm-hmm.
When you're like, oh, I kind of want these. I mean, you can do it your own way, but
Yeah.
I had this vision. I want to do it like this, and you're like, oh, cool. But at least you know what you want.
Mhm.
If it comes to, oh, let's just shoot this. How? Like,
Right.
what do you want it to look?
Do you like it to be, because I can, even in my scripts, I try to not get too like technical on the shots, but I do generally have an idea of like, I want it to be a super close up there. And like I know the flow of like where I kind of see the shots. Does that seem to be helpful?
Yeah, no,
Is
for
that
sure.
part of the way?
For
you
sure,
know?
that's a director and DP choice. But
Yeah.
mainly, what I mean is like the look.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, do you want it to look black and white? Cool. 4:3.
Mhm.
Oh wow, nice. Or blue or red, or I mean, just give you an idea of the look
Mhm.
that he's
Yeah.
going for. Because if it's like, oh, let's just make it cool, well, like,
Yeah.
what do you
What's
mean?
that? What is
Yeah.
that?
so do you want
Yeah.
it contrasty? You want to lift the shadows? Do you want it more soft? Do you want it more, kind of
Ooh.
crunchy? Kind of, usually they
Mhm.
bring up a movie or something and like, oh, I kind of want it to look like this, like 60mm film look, or
Yeah.
and that's helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I mean, I'm okay with coming out with that idea, but if he has to be the director and the DP together too,
Mhm.
because like cinematography is like, something that you have to work together with the director and just try to help tell a story. It's not about making an image look cool.
Right.
It's
No,
more about
totally.
helping the story. So if that means shooting a very dirty kind of look, you have to do it. So the skateboard, we just shot like a spec hat for a
Mhm.
skater for Bones Wheels. And actually, that was not a spec hat. It was like an ad for Bones Wheel. We're shooting so much stuff. And we didn't want it to be super like, kind of like a perfume commercial. Because it's a
Mhm.
skater.
Yeah.
We shot in the valley, in a pool, a very gritty environment. And that's what the cinematography was about.
Mm.
Shooting.
Finding those elements that are going to
Yeah.
actually make it not just with the color, but with the environment, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it has to make sense
Yeah.
with the story. He's a skater. You don't want to shoot it super
Glam.
nice and glamour
Right.
and beautiful like a perfume.
So no, like you didn't have a fan like blowing the skater's wings.
No, exactly.
Like,
That's
Yeah.
what I mean. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're knocking strangers' doors in some
Right.
like kind of sketchy neighborhood too, and you're like just going there and
Ooh.
skating a pool. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great environment. It's
That's
I love
kinda
it.
dope.
But
Guerrilla
Yeah.
filmmaking.
or in Ireland, I shot a short film about drug addicts, you know, and this little girl
Oh,
find her mom in overdose.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I don't want to shoot it super glamour and nice.
Right.
It has to be not ugly, but kind of dirty, kind of like greedy.
Yeah.
How often do you feel like directors really have that vision, like they know what they want, as opposed to them just being like, well, this is kind of look I'm going for, help me figure it out, you know, like is what happens more often, do you think?
It depends because I sometimes director come from maybe they were shooters,
Mm-hmm.
so they really know their
Yeah.
visuals, and sometimes they never turn on a camera in their life, and it's which is fine because they're directors too. But I think it's something in the middle.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I have
Like-
this idea, but
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
tell me what you think and that we work. But I think it's mainly it's just like a collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that has to come out with like with the future film. No one came out as like I want to shoot it 4x3. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
why 4x3? No anamorphic.
That's a weird size for
Yeah.
those of you who don't know anything.
Yeah, it's an aspect ratio, like old old style. But he gave me a reason why he wanted to look like claustrophobic kind of thing. I'm like, oh, perfect.
Yeah.
And we went
Which I
from
think
there.
is so cool.
Yeah.
Like that totally, having the image kind of squished in
Yeah.
a little bit more creates that claustrophobia.
Yeah, he sent
Mhm.
references. He said, I want a lot of contrast, so you work with like what you have and just make it happen. But it's mainly like, oh, I have this idea. Can we make it happen?
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
depends. But it's all about the story again. It's like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And that's why it's so important, listeners, especially like those of you that are really pretty new to filmmaking, if you don't personally have a DP that you work with yet or don't know anyone, like to make sure you work with someone who knows what they're doing. Because whether or not, you have this vision, how specific your vision is, you might have no idea how to actually make it happen. And that's why
Yeah.
you need a DP who really knows what they're
Exactly.
doing. So important. It adds so much. It makes it so much easier for you because it takes that weight off your shoulders too. And, it just, you're going to get a better end product, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And do some research beforehand. I mean, I would even like start to look up, I remember I would Google ratios and color schemes, understand, like you can pick up a lot of examples from movies that you even watch and like you're like, okay, I want something like that. What does that even there's just like a whole psychology behind it that's
Mhm.
I think very fascinating.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the way the
Mhm.
colors like manipulate your
Oh, yeah.
psychosis.
And that's also like a production designer thing. So when you watch a movie, I mean, the DP shouldn't say this, but I think it's just a small part
Mhm.
because it's mainly production designer, set designer, makeup, costume designer. I mean, it's equal,
Yeah.
I mean, of course they say, oh, it's the DP because you're filming, but
Mhm.
what are you filming? So what's in front of
What
the
is
camera? Who made
image
that?
there?
Yeah. very
Why that
true.
guy has a blue jacket and she has a red dress?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Because that's the key.
Yeah.
So I think too, production designer, set designer, but like probably I forgot to mention before because it's not in a camera crew,
True. Yeah.
but it's a big part
Mm-hmm.
to me of the visual
Mm-hmm.
at the
Like-
end because it's literally what you're filming. That's
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
what's in front of the camera.
Totally.
So
So before we finish up, I want our listeners to be able to look you up, see your work. So I want you to tell them where to do that, but also your YouTube videos. I'd love if you would talk just a
Oh,
moment about
yeah.
that, because I know that that's a lot of information that, is just good to have in video form that you can reference and
Mhm.
take notes on and learn from, and so.
Yeah. YouTube is kind of like a hobby for me.
Mhm.
Started getting a little bit too much, to be honest, because
Mhm.
as a freelancer, we have free time, and I invested in YouTube, so I create content so people can just watch them. You just Google Matteo Bertoli on YouTube or Google, and you'll find me.
That
There's
is
not many.
Matteo space Bertoli for listeners out there.
That's correct. There's not many of them on YouTube. Actually, it's probably the only one. But
Yeah, that's impressive. There's a
so-
lot of
That-
everybody on
that's-
YouTube.
yeah. So
I have a
that's the thing.
Colombian cousin who spells Matteo completely different. So this is why.
Perfect. But yeah, it was, came
So
out for
yeah.
fun. I started shooting film videos on first iPhone that was able to shoot 4K.
Mhm.
Oh,
I did it for fun, and the biggest newspaper in Italy posted that video, and then Pixel, and then I don't know, a bunch of other blogs,
Mhm.
and then from there I started growing. Now I think 20,000 subscribers or something, and I do like camera tests, show people lenses,
Mhm.
lights. But
no,
again,
very
it's
helpful.
yeah, it's just something that I do it's not a main job, of
Mhm.
course. I'm DP. I have a production company too. So
Yeah,
I'm
talk
like,
about that real quick too. Buttery
Yeah,
Productions.
yeah, I think it's good to like divide your personal, if you're a DP or director, to divide
Okay.
it to, because like at the end of the day, with the production company, you can do documentaries,
Mhm.
which maybe you don't want to do as a DP,
Mhm.
or brand video. Like now I'm
Oh, I
focusing
see
more
what
on
you're saying.
feature film and commercial with my DP career. So if you go on my website, are only commercial and feature film.
Okay.
But if you go to Battery Films, which is my production company, might find some brand, some short documentary, some different stuff. So if I started a production company, so I can just do more
Mm-hmm.
kind of jobs. That's pretty much it. But it's me.
No, yeah, that's a really good point. I
Um,
never thought of it like that because we're branching out too in a lot of different areas, and it's like, do I want that all on Femme Regard?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Exactly.
We kind of,
Maybe if you want to do corporate videos too, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of money in there.
yeah.
You might want to open production company. So you're like, oh, that's not the, because that's what happened. I think people look at you as like, oh, he has a wedding video on his portfolio. They're not gonna even consider you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not because it's a wedding video, it's just because it's not a commercial.
Mm-hmm.
If they see 10 commercial and one wedding video, for some reason they're like, oh, he's a wedding videographer. I'm like, it's one wedding video. So
Yeah.
you want to
Right.
have, that's an advice that I give to everybody that is doing this.
No, that's really good advice.
On your website, just have what you want to do and the best that you have. Because at the end of the day, it's like when agency or production company go on your website and they see even like a corporate video, you don't want to be the corporate guy, or
Mm-hmm.
but on your production company, you're like, oh, I'm a production company. I do whatever
Right.
pays me.
All these
Yeah.
things. Exactly.
I don't care.
That is
So
smart.
I think
Mhm.
it's smart to like divide what you want to be like director, and then having production company where you can do like brand, corporate, wedding if you want, whatever. But
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what's your personal website where they could hire you as a DP?
MatteoBertoli.me.
.me, simple enough. Well,
Super
thank
simple.
you so much for coming
Thank you.
in today
Thanks for
and
having
talking
me.
to
Yep.
us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Listeners, check them out, and we will see you next time. Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in next time for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals over tea.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. If you leave us a great comment, we might give you a shout out on the show. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.